November 1883. I could smell snow coming 3 days out. 15 winters alone teaches you that. What I didn't smell was trouble. The mules knew before I did. Ears back, nostrils flared when I unhitched them outside my cabin. Pine smoke from my chimney mixed with the iron scent of coming weather. I just returned from Millerville 3 days late because the early storm had dumped 6 inches on the high passes. Then I heard it, a child's cough. In 15 years on this mountain, children never just appeared. I turned slow, hand moving to the knife at my belt. There in the mud by my porch, a man kneeling, 3 small figures pressed against him, dark hair falling across his forehead, storm-gray eyes, carpenter's hands. "Ma'am," he said, voice rough with exhaustion. "Name's Daniel Price. I'll build you whatever you need, just feed my hungry children." Should have said no, should have sent them back before the pass closed. Didn't. I circled them like I'd circle a wounded animal, careful, measuring threat versus need. The oldest girl couldn't have been more than 8, thin arms wrapped around a baby. The boy, maybe 6, had his face buried against his father's shoulder like he was trying to disappear. "You're a long way from anywhere, mister." I kept my voice flat. "Pass closes in 2 days if that storm hits like I think it will." "Yes, ma'am." His hand rubbed his left thumb, nervous. "That's why. When did these children last eat?" His jaw worked, pride-fighting truth. 2 days. Had some hardtack, but it's gone." The girl stepped forward. Fierce little thing, all bones and determination. "Papa built the finest houses in Iowa, ma'am. He can build anything you need. We won't be trouble." I looked at her clenched fists. Protective stance over siblings she was too young to be protecting. "You the oldest?" "Yes'm." "Been taking care of them?" Her chin lifted. "Somebody's got to." The boy stayed silent, pressed tight to his father's leg. The baby whimpered, small, hungry sound that cut through my resolve like a blade through cloth. "What happened to their mother?" "Consumption." The word came out flat. "Last spring. Wind rattled the pines, temperature dropping fast. I could feel winter's teeth in the air. My hand left the knife hilt. Come inside. All of you." The man's shoulders dropped. First relief I'd seen in his weathered face. "Ma'am, I don't know how to—" "Didn't ask for thanks. Asked you to come inside before that baby catches her death." I opened the door. Warmth spilled out, carrying the scent of venison stew I'd left simmering. The children's eyes went wide. My cabin was simple. One large room, stone fireplace, table I'd built myself, shelves lined with preserves, loft accessible by ladder, everything in its place because that's how you survive alone. Order, routine, no surprises. Until now. "Sit." They obeyed instantly. Military precision that spoke of a father who'd kept control even when everything else fell apart. Daniel Price hesitated, still holding the baby. "You too. Can't work on an empty stomach." I ladled generous portions into wooden bowls. The stew was thick. Venison, potatoes, wild onions, bread sliced from the loaf I'd traded for in town. Fresh milk from the cow I kept in the small barn out back. The oldest girl, Emma, he'd called her, picked up her spoon carefully. "Thank you, ma'am." The boy dove in. No restraint, hunger overwhelming every other instinct. "Tom," Daniel said quietly, "slow down, son." But the father ate slowly himself, eyes never leaving his children, cataloging, color returning to cheeks, shoulders relaxing, the baby accepting spoonfuls without fussing. I watched him watch them, saw love there, fierce and desperate, but also something else. His hand kept moving to his coat pocket, touching something, pulling back. "How long you been traveling?" I asked. "Left Iowa 6 weeks ago." He rubbed that left thumb again. "Heard there was work in Colorado, carpenter work. Long walk with 3 kids. Had a wagon, lost it crossing a river." His hand went to the pocket again. "Save the tools, but—" "What's in your pocket?" He froze. "Ma'am? You keep touching your coat like you got something precious. Or something guilty." I leaned forward. "Which is it?" The children stopped eating. Tension instant, like a wire pulled taut. "Just papers," he said. "My work references from Iowa. Nothing to—" "Papa's an honest man, Miss Garner." Emma's voice was fierce, protective. I studied his face. Storm-gray eyes met mine. Steady, but something underneath, something hidden. "I believe you," I said. "For now." Wind howled outside. Snow beginning, heavy, wet flakes that meant the pass would close by morning. I could see it in the way the temperature had dropped, smell it in the air coming through the gaps in the logs. Storm's coming faster than I thought. I stood. "You can stay tonight. Loft's warm, got extra blankets. Tomorrow we'll talk about work. I'm much obliged, Miss Garner. Sylvie, if you're staying under my roof, use my name. I moved to bank the fire for the night, my back to them. Behind me, I heard the soft sounds of children being settled, whispered reassurances from a father who'd kept his family alive through hell. Outside, the storm hit hard, snow falling thick enough to bury tracks, close passes, trap us all together on this mountain. Daniel Price had found me with winter as his accomplice. Question was, had he found me by accident or by design? Dawn came cold and sharp. I woke to the sound of hammer on stone, Daniel already outside, examining my cabin's foundation like he'd lived here all his life. I pulled on my coat and stepped into air that smelled of pine and fresh snow. 6 inches had fallen overnight. The pass would be closed for days, maybe weeks if another storm followed. Sun's barely up, I called. He looked up from where he knelt by the north wall. Old habit. My pa always said best work gets done before most folks start thinking about it. His hands moved along the foundation stones with the practiced ease of someone who understood structure, weight, how things held together or fell apart. You got settling here. Not dangerous yet, but come another hard winter. He pulled chalk from his tool belt, marking problem areas. Cold air's getting underneath. I could shore this up today if you got stones nearby. Behind the barn, left over from when I built the place. Emma sat on a fallen log, braiding grass stems with careful concentration. Thomas stood close to his father, handing him tools with the silent efficiency of a boy who'd done this 100 times. Little Lucy played with pine cones, her breath making clouds in the morning air. Papa, Emma said, when we have our own house again, can it have big windows like Miss Sylvie's? Something crossed Daniel's face. Quick shadow, there and gone. We'll see, sweetheart. I filed that away with the thumb rubbing, the hidden pocket touching, signs of a man carrying more than he was saying. You all had breakfast? I asked the children. Thomas nodded silently. Emma answered, Yes'm. We helped ourselves like you said. Hope that was all right. That's fine. Emma, want to learn how to check snares? Her face lit up. Really? A bark cut through the morning, sharp, urgent. A dog appeared at the tree line. Mixed breed, scarred ear, slight limp in its back leg. In its mouth, fabric, blue flowers, stained dark, blood, fresh blood. The dog dropped the cloth at my feet and looked up at me with knowing eyes. Scout, I breathed. I'd been feeding this stray for 3 years, but he'd never brought me anything before. Where'd you find this? Daniel stood quickly. What is that? I picked up the fabric carefully. Child's dress, torn. The blood wasn't more than a day old. Cloth, kid's dress, and that blood's recent. Scout whined, looked toward the tree line. Back at me, message clear. You want me to follow you, boy? He barked. Urgent. Daniel stepped forward. Miss Sylvie, maybe you shouldn't. Been following this dog for 3 years. He don't lead me wrong. I grabbed my rifle. Emma, stay here with your father. Don't wander off. The mountain silence swallowed my words as Scout led me into the trees. An hour later, I returned, shaken. Scout had led me to the old trapper's cabin 2 miles west, place I'd thought abandoned for a decade. Inside, ropes hanging from ceiling beams, letters hidden in wall cracks, muddy footprints, signs of struggle, signs of something worse. Now I found Daniel at the eastern edge of my property, brass compass in his hands, not a traveler's compass, a surveyor's compass, the kind used for marking boundaries, measuring claims. He was studying it with intense focus, then looking out across the valley like he was trying to orient himself to something specific. I approached silently. Mountain skills. Find what you're looking for? My voice came from 5 feet behind him. He spun, guilty, quickly pocketed the compass. Miss Garner, I was just checking your bearings after being here one night. I stepped closer, hand near my knife. That's a surveyor's compass, Mr. Price, not the kind a traveling carpenter carries. It belonged to my father-in-law. Sentimental. Don't lie to me. My voice dropped, dangerous. I spent 15 years surviving by reading people. You got tells. That thumb rubbing when you're nervous, the way your eyes cut right before you bend truth. So I'm going to ask you straight. Who sent you here? His jaw worked, internal war playing across his face like clouds across the sun. Can't tell you that. Can't or won't. Both. I drew my knife. Not threatening yet, just present. The blade caught morning light, steel edge that had gutted deer and skinned rabbits and kept me alive when nothing else would. Then you and yours are gone by morning, storm or no storm. We can't leave. The pass, you should have thought of that before you came to my mountain with secrets and surveyor's tools and whatever the hell you're really doing here. Miss Sylvie, please. Desperation cracked through his voice. I swear, I mean you no harm. Neither do my children. We are who we say we are. A father trying to provide for his family. But that's not all we are. I can't explain. Not yet, but... Emma's scream cut through the cold air. Papa, Papa, come quick. Thomas is burning up. We both ran. Questions shelved. His son's fever mattered more than my suspicions, for now, but debts always come due, and Daniel Price's debt was growing by the hour. Thomas lay in the loft, flushed and shaking. His skin felt like fire under my hand. 104 degrees, maybe higher. Daniel paced below like a caged wolf, his boots wearing patterns in the floorboards. Emma held Lucy on her lap, both girls watching with frightened eyes. When this start? I kept my voice level. He was fine an hour ago. Daniel's hands opened and closed, helpless. Just playing with pine cones. Then Emma called and... This happened before? His face went gray. After Sarah died. Fever so high he didn't know his own name for a week. Nearly lost him. I can't... His voice broke. I can't lose another one. Whatever betrayal he was hiding, this terror was real. I'd seen enough death to recognize someone standing at its edge. You're not losing him. I made my voice firm. Emma, fetch my medicine bag. Shelf by the fireplace, leather satchel. She ran. Daniel, I need willow bark from the barn. Dried bundles hanging on the east wall. Bring the whole bundle. He didn't move. Frozen in his fear. Daniel. Sharper now. I need that bark. Your boy needs it. Move. He snapped out of it. Ran. Alone with Thomas, I wet a cloth in the basin. The water was cold. Melted snow I'd brought in that morning. I placed it on his forehead. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Mama? He whispered. My throat tightened. No, sweetheart. But I'm here. You're safe. Emma returned with the bag. Daniel with the willow bark. I worked with practiced efficiency. Stripped the inner bark. Steeped it in hot water. Added honey to cut the bitterness. The smell filled the cabin. Bitter and earthy, like the mountain itself trying to heal. This'll taste terrible, I told Thomas, but it'll bring the fever down. I spooned the tea into him. He grimaced, but swallowed. Minutes passed. His breathing eased. Color started returning to something closer to normal. Daniel sank into a chair, put his hands over his face. His shoulders shook, not quite crying, but close. The sound of a man who'd been holding everything together finally finding a moment to fall apart. Emma, I said quietly, take Lucy downstairs. Make her some lunch. Your pa and brother need quiet. She obeyed, wise beyond her 8 years. I sat across from Daniel, let the silence settle. Outside, wind pushed against the cabin walls. Inside, the fire crackled. Thomas's breathing steadied into sleep. Want to tell me what that was about? I asked finally. Daniel lowered his hands. His eyes were red-rimmed. I lost my Sarah to consumption last spring, watched her waste away for 3 months. Couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. Then Tom got sick right after we buried her. Same symptoms, same cough. I thought... He couldn't finish. You thought you'd lose him too. Every time he so much as sniffles, I'm back in that room watching Sarah die. Telling myself I should have gotten the doctor sooner, should have done something different. His voice was raw. These kids are all I got left of her. If anything happens to them... I studied him. Genuine grief, genuine love, but also genuine secrets. Your boy's going to be fine. Fever's already breaking. I stood. But you and I still got business, Mr. Price. I know. Whatever you're hiding, whoever sent you here, you're going to tell me, just not today. I set the willow bark bundle on the table, deliberate. Keep this. You'll need to make more tea tonight and tomorrow. I'll show Emma how to prepare it. The knowledge passing between us was more than medicine. It was trust, fragile as new ice. Night fell hard and fast in the mountains. Thomas slept peacefully now, fever broken. Emma and Lucy were settled in the loft, but Daniel sat by the fire, staring into flames like they held answers. I sat across from him. The fire's warmth fought against the cold seeping through the cabin walls. Outside, wind carried the scent of more snow coming. I was hired to find you, he said finally. I'd been expecting this. Still, hearing it spoken aloud felt like a fist to the gut. By who? Can't say yet, but I was supposed to observe you, confirm your identity, report back. And then what? Make you an offer, compensation to relocate quietly. I laughed. No humor in it. Relocate, that's a fancy word for eviction. The land, it's not legally yours. There's a deed, territorial claim from 1867. You've been living on property that belongs to someone who thinks owning paper means owning people. I cut him off. Yeah, I know that song. Ran from it 15 years ago. His face changed, understanding dawning. You knew this land wasn't yours. I knew it was empty. Knew nobody'd been here in 15 years. Figured 15 years of living and improving beats a piece of paper in a dead man's safe. I leaned forward. Guess I was wrong. The man who hired me, he's not the one who held the original deed. That man's dead. This is his son. And the son wants what Daddy wanted. Me gone. Yes. The word came out quiet, heavy. Fire crackled. Somewhere in the loft, Lucy murmured in her sleep. So what happens now? I asked. You send word I'm here, and they come with the law? That was the plan. His hand moved to his coat pocket. Touched something there, pulled back. But now He stopped, rubbed his left thumb. Now you what? He met my eyes. Now I got 3 kids who've been eating regular for the first time in weeks. A son whose fever you broke when I was too panicked to think straight. A daughter who's learning to be a child again instead of a little mother. He stopped again. And you? And me what? And you, who could have turned us away but didn't. Who could have thrown us out when you knew I was lying but gave me time because Tom needed help. His voice dropped. The money I was promised would save my children. Set us up for years. But taking it might destroy the one person who's shown us real kindness since Sarah died. He looked down at his hands. Carpenter's hands, scarred and capable. So now I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. I stood, looked down at him. Figure it out fast. Storm's got us trapped up here another week, maybe 2. But when that pass opens, you're going to choose. Your employer's money, or whatever this is between us. And if I choose wrong, then you better hope you're a fast runner. I moved toward my sleeping alcove, because I've survived 15 years alone, and I'll survive 15 more if I have to. I pulled the curtain closed, left him sitting there by the fire, but I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to the wind and the fire and the soft sounds of children breathing in the loft, listening to Daniel Price wrestle with his conscience in the dark. 1 week passed. Thomas recovered. A routine formed, fragile but real. Daniel worked on my cabin's foundation. I taught Emma to identify animal tracks, to read weather in the sky. Thomas stayed close to his father, but started watching me with curious eyes instead of fearful ones. Lucy began calling me Mama Sylvie when she thought I wasn't listening. Almost normal, almost family. Then Daniel approached me at the woodpile with a folded letter in his hands. There's something else. His voice was quiet, careful. Something I should have told you from the start. I set down my axe. More secrets? Not a secret. A promise. To my wife, before she died. He held out the letter. His hands shook slightly, not from cold, but from something deeper. I took it, unfolded it. The paper was worn soft, like he'd read it 100 times. The handwriting was feminine but weak, as if written by someone with little strength left, dated last spring. I began reading. My dearest sister. The words blurred. I looked up at Daniel. His face was grave, watching me with something like compassion. Sister? The word came out barely above a whisper. Sarah Ashford Price. His voice cracked. Your sister Sarah. The letter fell from my hands. I stumbled backward, hit the woodpile, slid down to sitting in the snow. Cold soaked through my pants, but I couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel anything except the weight of 15 years crashing down. No, I shook my head. Sarah died. Sarah couldn't be. She was only 16 when I left. She was 16. Turned 17 the month after you disappeared. Daniel knelt beside me but didn't touch. She spent the next 15 years looking for you. I had a baby sister. My voice rose. Little Sarah, who followed me everywhere, asked 1,000 questions, wanted to braid her hair like mine. I left her. I left her behind, and I never... The sob came from somewhere deep. 15 years of control, shattering like ice under spring thaw. She understood, Daniel said. Said you were the bravest person she'd ever known, that you chose freedom over safety, and that took courage. She wasn't sure she had. When? I forced the word out. When did she? Last spring. Consumption. He said it gentle, but the words still cut. Same disease that took your grandmother. I tried everything. Doctors, medicine, prayer, but sometimes trying isn't enough. I picked up the letter with shaking hands, made myself read through the tears. I don't know what your life has become, dear sister, but I'm asking you to help Daniel raise our children. Emma, Thomas, and Lucy. They need more than one parent. They need family. I looked toward the cabin where children's laughter echoed. Emma teaching Thomas some game, Lucy tottering after Scout, who'd become her patient guardian. The children. The realization hit fresh. Emma, Thomas, Lucy, they're your niece and nephews, your blood. Another wave of grief, another layer of loss. I'd been teaching them, feeding them, growing to love them. 6 weeks, and I'd never known I was caring for my own sister's children. Does she know? I looked toward Emma. Do they know? Not yet. Sarah made me promise to tell you first. Said it was your choice whether to. My choice? I stood abruptly. They're my blood, my sister's children. There's no choice, there's just. I couldn't finish. The weight of it. Sarah alive, all those years, searching for me, dying while I lived alone on this mountain, never knowing. The children growing up without their mother while their aunt, their only living blood relative, remained ignorant. Daniel's arm came around my shoulders. I let myself break against someone else's strength for the first time in 15 years. She talked about you constantly, he said quietly, especially near the end. Said you were the bravest person she'd ever known. That choosing your own path, even when it meant losing everything, that was real courage. I lost her, I whispered. I lost my baby sister. But you have her children. His voice was gentle. We have her children. Emma's voice called from the cabin. Miss Sylvie, come see what Scout found. Daniel helped me stand. I wiped my face roughly. Do they know? About Sarah being my... No, but they should, when you're ready. I nodded, couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. That night, after the children slept, I read Sarah's full letter by firelight. Every word, a knife and a gift. 2 days later, the sound of horses shattered our fragile peace. Multiple riders, coming fast. Daniel saw them first. Sylvie, company. I emerged from the cabin. 5 riders crested the ridge. Town Marshal Davis in the lead, badge catching winter sunlight. Well-dressed man beside him, lawyer by the look of his eastern clothes. 3 hired guns behind. Daniel positioned himself between the riders and the cabin, where the children were. Miss Garner? The marshal's voice carried across the snow. Or should I say, Miss Ashford? My blood went cold. The name I'd buried 15 years ago, spoken aloud on my mountain. Marshal Davis. I kept my voice steady. Long ride up for nothing. Got business, legal business. He gestured to the lawyer. This here's Mr. Thornton, represents the Blackwood estate. Blackwood, the name I'd run from, the name that still haunted my nightmares. Thornton dismounted, pulling documents from his saddlebag. The leather creaked in the cold air. Miss Sarah Millicent Ashford, I have here a territorial deed dated 1867, granting 640 acres to James Blackwood III. The boundaries include this property. He held out papers. I didn't take them. I know what those say. Then you know you're trespassing. Thornton's voice was professionally neutral. My client, James Blackwood IV, is prepared to be generous. $5,000 for peaceful relocation within 30 days. And if I refuse? Legal eviction, which will be granted as you have no legal claim. You'll leave with nothing. Daniel stepped forward. She's been here 15 years, made improvements, worked the land. That counts for something under homestead. Mr. Price. Thornton's voice went sharp. We've been expecting your report, though I admit I'm surprised to find you've integrated so thoroughly with the subject. Daniel's face went pale. I looked at him. Betrayal renewed, sharp and fresh. The marshal leaned forward in his saddle. You were hired to find her, Price, not to play house. Emma burst from the cabin door. Papa didn't do anything wrong. All eyes turned, Emma standing fierce on the porch, Thomas and Lucy behind her. He kept his promise to Mama, Emma said, voice ringing clear. He found Miss Sylvie like he was supposed to, that's all. Thornton's eyebrows rose. Mama? And who might that be? Emma, go inside. Daniel's voice was warning. His wife, Emma continued, ignoring him. Sarah Price. She was Miss Sylvie's sister. That's why we're here. Because we're family. Silence, heavy as snow before an avalanche. Well, Thornton's smile was thin. This complicates things. How so? The marshal asked. If the children are blood relatives, they may have legal standing to contest eviction. Family ties to the property could delay proceedings. One of the hired guns spoke for the first time. Mr. Blackwood ain't interested in delays. He wants resolution. His hand rested on his pistol. Threat clear as creek water. You threatening women and children? Daniel's voice went dangerous. That Blackwood's idea of business? Just stating facts. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Boss wants his land. He'll get it. Marshal Davis raised a hand. That's enough. Miss Ashford, you got 30 days. Take the money or face eviction. Any resistance, I got authority to use necessary force. He tipped his hat. The riders turned to leave. Thornton paused. For what it's worth, $5,000 is generous. Take it. This doesn't end well otherwise. They rode down the mountain. The sound of hoofbeats faded into winter silence. I stood there, snow beginning to fall again, and felt the walls I'd built for 15 years crumbling around me. Sylvie, Daniel started. Don't. I held up a hand. Your report. He mentioned your report. I haven't sent one. Not since. But you were supposed to. That was the deal. My voice was ice. Find me. Confirm identity. Report back. And you did find me. Found out I was your dead wife's sister. Found out these kids are my blood. And you still took Blackwood's money. The advance was for... I don't care. The words exploded out. You lied. You used your children as weapons to get close to me. And now Blackwood knows exactly where I am, exactly who I am, exactly how to hurt me. I turned toward the cabin, stopped at the door. 30 days, figure out where your loyalty is. Because come day 31, when Blackwood's men show up with guns, you're either with me or against me. I slammed the door, left him standing alone in the yard with his children watching through the window, watching their father choose between survival and honor. The barn smelled of hay and horse and the sharp cold of winter hanging on. Daniel was mucking stalls mechanically, his movements those of a man trying to work through problems he couldn't solve. Emma entered first, Thomas holding Lucy's hand behind her. Small delegation with serious faces. Papa, we need to talk. Not now, sweetheart. He didn't look up. Yes, now. Because you're being a coward. That got his attention. He straightened, shocked. Emma Josephine Price, you do not. Mama died telling you to find Aunt Sylvie and bring us to her. You did that. You kept your promise. Emma's voice was fierce. But then you took money from the bad man to spy on her. That wasn't part of Mama's promise. I took that money so you could eat, so we'd have a place to sleep, so we could survive. I know. Her voice cracked. 8 years old, trying not to cry. But Papa, we're surviving now. We got food, we got warm beds, we got Aunt Sylvie teaching us things and Scout to play with. We're happy for the first time since Mama died. She wiped her eyes roughly. Don't you want us to be happy? Daniel sank onto a hay bale. Of course I do. That's all I want. Thomas stepped forward, spoke for the first time in days. Then stay. Everyone looked at him, his words so rare, each one carried weight like gold. Thomas touched his chest over his heart, his gesture for feelings he couldn't name. Aunt Sylvie is good. She's safe. This place is home. He met his father's eyes. Stay. Emma nodded. Mama's letter said Aunt Sylvie would take care of us. She is. And she'd take care of you too, Papa, if you'd stop being stubborn about the money. It's not about the money anymore. Daniel's voice was rough. It's about the fact that I lied. I used you kids to get close to her. I took Blackwood's advance knowing you were desperate and scared and didn't have choices, Emma interrupted. Aunt Sylvie knows that too. She's not mad about the lying, Papa. She's mad because you're still choosing Blackwood over us. I'm not choosing. Aren't you? Emma's voice was sharp. By staying quiet? By not fighting for her? Mama would be ashamed of you right now. Direct hit. Daniel flinched like she'd struck him. That's not fair. Neither is making Aunt Sylvie face those bad men alone when she's family. When she's all the family we got left besides each other. Lucy toddled to Daniel, patted his knee with small, certain hands. Papa sad? He picked her up. Yes, sweet pea. Papa's sad. Mama Sylvie fix it. Daniel's eyes widened. Did you teach her to call Sylvie? She just started, Emma said. We didn't correct her because it feels right. Daniel held his daughter, looked at his other children, saw their certainty, their choice already made. The question was, could he make his? Next morning, Daniel was outside before dawn. I watched from the window as he selected a large, flat stone from behind the barn, heard the sound of hammer on chisel, rhythmic, meditative metal on stone in the cold air. Sun rose. He didn't stop. Sweat despite the cold, breath making clouds. His hands bled slightly from the cold metal, but he kept working. I emerged with coffee, stopped at a distance, watched. He finished, sat back, wiped the stone clean with careful hands. The carving read, Price Garner, 1883. Below it, a simple pine tree design. He stood, saw me watching. For the cabin addition, he said, new foundation needs a cornerstone. You're building me an addition when I might not even be here in 30 days? I'm building us a home. His eyes met mine, however long we got to live in it. Wind moved between us, carried the scent of pine and snow and something changing. You put our names together. Seemed right. He wiped his hands on his pants. You're raising my kids. I'm hoping to be part of your life, if you'll have me. Money or no money. Blackwood or no Blackwood. Pretty words, but when his men show up, I'll be standing between them and you, between them and our kids. His voice was steady now, certain. And if I got to choose between his money and your life, I'm choosing you. I'm choosing this. He gestured to the stone, the cabin, the life we were building despite everything trying to tear it apart. I studied him, saw truth there finally. No hand rubbing, no pocket touching, just a man who'd made his choice. Coffee's getting cold. I turned back to the cabin, stopped at the door. That cornerstone, it's good work. I went inside. Behind me, I heard him exhale. First real breath in days. The stone sat where he'd left it, waiting to be placed. Names carved together, permanent as the mountain itself. We'd need it soon, because in 23 days, Blackwood's men would come, and we'd better be ready. Night. A knock on the door made me reach for my rifle. Daniel moved to shield the children. I opened it to find Jack McKenna, the town blacksmith, and Dr. Harrison behind him, both nervous, glancing over their shoulders like hunted animals. Miss Garner, Jack's voice was low. Need to talk. Private. I let them in. The smell of coal smoke and leather followed them. Daniel joined us while the children slept upstairs. Jack sat heavily at my table. I'll say it plain, Blackwood ain't just after land. He's running girls through this territory. Trafficking, using his father's old mining operations as cover. The blood-stained fabric, Scout leading me to that cabin. The signs I'd seen but hadn't understood. That cabin, 2 miles west, I said. The ropes, the letters. Dr. Harrison's face was gray with shame. I've been signing death certificates, falsifying records. Girls who died of influenza or left town voluntarily. His voice cracked. He threatened my daughters, said if I didn't cooperate, they'd be next. I'm a coward, Mr. Price. I know it, but I'm a coward who'd do anything to keep his girls safe. My wife Mary tried to tell me. Jack's hands clenched on the table. Said she saw things, girls being moved at night, heard crying from the old bank building. I told her she was hearing things, making up stories. He looked down. Month later, she's dead. Accident, they called it. Weren't no accident. He pulled out 2 journals, set them on the table with the weight of evidence and guilt. Mary's diary, every suspicion, every sighting. He pushed the second book forward. And the doctor's records. Every girl, every false certificate, every crime. Why bring this to me? I asked. Because you're the one thing he wants more than he wants to stay hidden, Dr. Harrison said. He's obsessed with you, same way his father was. That obsession is his weakness. Daniel leaned forward. You're saying we use Sylvie as bait? We're saying we use his obsession to draw him out. Jack's voice was steady. Make him do something public, stupid. Then we hit him with evidence of the trafficking, but it has to be witnessed. Has to be in front of the whole town, or he'll just make the evidence disappear like always. And what happens to you two when this comes out? I looked between them. Town will know you were complicit. Dr. Harrison met my eyes. I'll lose my practice. Probably face charges, but my daughters will be safe from him. That's all that matters. I'll lose respect I don't deserve anyway, Jack said. But Mary will be avenged. Worth it. Silence settled. The fire crackled. Outside, wind pushed against the walls. Daniel looked at me. Unspoken question. Do we trust them? I studied their faces, saw genuine guilt, genuine determination. Sometimes the best allies were the ones carrying their own shame. What's your plan? We spread a rough map of town on the table. Jack marked locations with pieces of charcoal. Church socials in 3 days. Whole town will be there. If we can get Blackwood to show his hand in front of witnesses, he won't come. I shook my head. Too careful. He will, if you're there, Dr. Harrison said. If you publicly refuse his offer, challenge his father's legacy, pride'll force his hand. You're talking about putting Sylvie in front of the whole town, surrounded by people who think she's crazy, and challenging a man with money and guns. Daniel's voice was tight. That's not a plan. That's suicide. It's a plan if we're smart. I leaned over the map. Blackwood wants me gone quiet. But if I make noise, if I tell the town why I ran from his father 15 years ago, that's embarrassing. Blackwoods don't do embarrassing. He'll bring men to shut you up, Jack said. Good, let him. In front of God and everybody. Then we show the evidence. A creak from the loft ladder. Emma appeared, her nightgown pale in the firelight. I'll help. Absolutely not. Daniel stood. You're staying here. I'm Aunt Sylvie's blood, Mama's daughter. Emma's chin lifted. I got a right to stand with family. She's right, I said quietly. She's 8 years old. Emma crossed her arms. And I ain't scared. Are you? That stopped him. He looked at his daughter's fierce face, saw Sarah in her, saw me too, saw the future if he chose right and the future if he chose wrong. If we do this, he said finally, looking at me, we all go in together. You, me, the kids. We stand as a family or we don't stand at all. You'd risk your children? I'd risk everything to protect them. And protecting them means protecting you. His voice was firm. Because you're not just their aunt anymore. You're their home. Something passed between us. Not romance, partnership, alliance, forged in fire, in choice. Dr. Harrison cleared his throat. So, we're agreed? Church social, 3 days. We draw Blackwood out, let him show his nature, then produce evidence. Jack looked around the table. Either we all go down together, or we all walk free, I finished. No middle ground. We clasped hands over the map, pact made in lamplight and desperation. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the smell of coming storm. 3 days until we walked into the fire. 3 days to prepare for war or death. The night before the church social hung heavy with unspoken things. Thomas and Lucy slept, but Emma lay awake in the loft. I could feel her listening as Daniel and I sat by the fire. I've been thinking, Daniel said. Dangerous habit. If we were married, legally married, you'd have standing to contest the eviction. Family claim through the children. It could buy us time. No. The word came out flat, final. You didn't let me finish. Don't need to. I stood. You're proposing we get married for legal protection, so I become your property instead of Blackwood's. Answer's no. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. My voice rose. Maybe not how you said it, but that's the truth underneath. I ran from James Blackwood III because he wanted to own me. Wanted to make me his perfect railroad wife, hosting dinners and bearing heirs and never having a thought he didn't approve first. I moved to the window, stared at my reflection in the dark glass. I'd rather die free than live as another man's property. I'm not asking to own you. Daniel stood too. I'm asking to stand beside you. By making me your wife, your legal dependent, my partner. His voice cracked. My equal. The woman raising my children and teaching them strength I never could. The woman who... He stopped, pulled back from whatever edge he'd been approaching. Who what? Who I love. The words came out quiet, certain. I love you, Sylvie Garner, not because you need saving, but because you don't, because you're strong enough to stand alone, but brave enough to let us stand with you, because my kids call you Mama Sylvie and you don't correct them, because you're... I kissed him, sudden, fierce, tasting of desperation and something deeper, ended it quickly. Don't. My voice shook. Don't make promises we might not live to keep. Sylvie, ask me again, after tomorrow, after we see if we survive. I moved toward my alcove. If we're still standing when the smoke clears, ask me then, but not tonight, not when it's tactics instead of truth. I pulled the curtain closed, left him standing by the fire, but I whispered into the darkness, "For what it's worth, I love you too, God help me." Dawn came too fast. I pulled the trunk from under my bed, the one I hadn't opened in 15 years. Dust rose as I lifted the lid. Inside, silk dress, jewelry, the remnants of Sarah Millicent Ashford. Daniel watched from the doorway. "Didn't know you kept those." "Insurance." I lifted the dress. Green silk, 15 years old but still beautiful. Thought maybe if I needed to run again, I could sell them. Never did. The fabric felt foreign in my hands, slippery where I was used to rough wool and leather. If I'm going to remind that town who I really am, I need to look the part. Sarah Millicent Ashford, railroad heiress. I met his eyes in the mirror. Not Sylvie Garner, crazy mountain hermit. You're not crazy. Town thinks I am, thinks I talk to animals, practice witchcraft. I started to dress, my movements sharp. Today, I need them to see me different, see me dangerous. The transformation was complete when I turned. 15 years fell away. I looked like what I'd been, educated, wealthy, powerful. The children descended from the loft, stopped, stared. "Miss Sylvie?" Emma's voice was awed. "You look like a princess." I look like prey pretending to be predator. The words tasted bitter. "Close enough." Thomas approached, touched the fabric carefully. "Pretty." Lucy clapped her hands. "Mama, Sylvie, pretty." I knelt, eye level with them. The dress pooled around me, silk on rough floorboards. "Listen, today's going to be scary. Lots of people probably shouting, maybe worse. Your papa and I need you to stay close, stay quiet, and stay brave. Can you do that?" 3 nods, solemn as vows. "Miss Sylvie," Emma's voice was small. "What if the bad men win? What if they take you away?" I looked at Daniel over their heads, saw the same fear in his eyes. "Then your papa will raise you right, teach you to be strong, keep you safe." I cupped Emma's face. "But Emma, I don't plan on losing, and neither should you." I stood, adjusted the dress. It still fit, though my shoulders had broadened from 15 years of mountain work. "Load the rifle," I told Daniel. "The good one. And wear your Sunday coat. If we're doing this, we're doing it proper." Scout whined at the door. I let him in. He sat at my feet, loyal guardian in dog's clothing. "You too, boy? Whole family goes." We left the cabin. The door closed behind us with the sound of finality. Outside, the cornerstone waited, names carved together, promise of a future we might not live to see. The church social was in full swing when we arrived. Tables of food, children playing, adults talking. Normal Sunday gathering until we walked into view. Conversations stopped. Whispers started like wind through dry grass. "That the Ashford girl? Thought she was dead. Where's a hermit get silk like that?" I walked through them with my family flanking me. Daniel on my right, Emma holding Lucy on my left, Thomas close beside Scout. Jack McKenna and Dr. Harrison fell in behind. Formation, Army going to war. James Blackwood IV sat at the head table. He saw me, rose slowly, 7 armed men with him, hands near weapons. "Miss Ashford." His voice carried across the crowd. What a pleasant surprise. "Mr. Blackwood," I kept my voice loud, clear. "We need to talk, publicly." The crowd went silent, everyone watching now. "I'm sure whatever you have to say can be discussed privately." "No," I walked closer. 15 years ago, I ran from your father because he treated me like property. Today, you're trying to do the same. Take my home, force me out, all because your daddy's name is on a piece of paper." Gasps from the crowd. Speaking ill of the dead. Scandalous. "My father loved you," James said, voice tight. "Your father loved the idea of owning me. There's a difference." I stopped 5 feet from him, close enough to see the rage building in his pale eyes. He planned my whole life without once asking what I wanted, where I'd live, what I'd do, how many children I'd have, like I was a mare he'd bought for breeding. Shocked silence. Some women's faces showed recognition, understanding. So I ran, made a life where no man could tell me what I was worth. My voice rang clear in the cold air. And now you, his son, show up trying to finish what he started. "I'm exercising legal rights," James said coldly. "You're trespassing." "I'm living on empty land I improved for 15 years. That makes it mine under any law that honors work over paper." Perhaps if we could discuss this calmly, the preacher started. I ignored him. Pulled out Dr. Harrison's journal, slapped it on the table. The sound cracked like a gunshot. But this ain't really about land, is it? It's about control, about Blackwood men thinking they own whatever they want. Land, women, justice. I leaned forward. Even little girls' lives. James's face went white. He recognized the journal. That's my record. Dr. Harrison stepped forward, voice shaking but clear. Every girl you moved through this territory, every death certificate I falsified, every crime I witnessed, signed and dated. The crowd erupted. Confusion, anger, disbelief. Jack pulled out Mary's diary. My wife saw things, wrote them down, got killed for knowing too much. This is slander, James snarled. Baseless accusations. Then explain the cabin, I cut him off. 2 miles west of my property, ropes hanging from the ceiling, letters hidden in the walls, blood on the floor. I watched him realize I'd found it, watched calculation flash across his face. Want me to take the marshal there? I pressed. Show him the letters from men asking about available girls and your father's replies quoting prices? James's composure cracked. You should have taken the money, Miss Ashford. Should have disappeared like you did 15 years ago. Because, well enough, ain't good enough when children are being sold. He nodded to his men. They drew weapons. Crowd screamed. Chaos. The first shot came from one of Blackwood's men. The bullet punched through the church wall with a sound like thunder. Women screaming. Men diving for cover. Children crying. Daniel shoved our kids down behind a table. Stay down! Jack tackled Dr. Harrison. The marshal drew his own weapon. Confusion clear on his face. Whose side was he on? I dropped behind a table. Reached for my rifle. Scout's bark turned vicious, protective. Second shot. Third. Wood splintering. Someone screamed. One of Blackwood's men, hit by a townsman defending his family. Take her, James shouted. I want her alive. His men advanced. I fired. Missed. Hands shaking with adrenaline. Then, rumble, deep, primal. Everyone froze. Thomas's voice rang out, high and terrified. The mountain! All eyes turned to the ridge, visible through the church windows. Snowpack moving. The gunshot's vibration had destabilized weeks of accumulated snow. Avalanche forming. White death cascading down. Sweet mercy, Jack breathed. Cellar, Daniel roared. Everyone to the cellar! Chaos became stampede. Townspeople running. Blackwood's men frozen in disbelief. James staring at the approaching avalanche like he couldn't comprehend it. No, he whispered. This can't. The wall of snow hit. Church shuddered. Timber groaning, screaming cut off. Darkness, roar of nature's fury, louder than any human sound. Then silence. Dust settling, snow through broken windows, cold air rushing in. We emerged from the cellar, survivors blinking in the sudden light, Daniel, me, the children, intact. Jack, Dr. Harrison, most townspeople shaken but breathing. Marshall dazed, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, outside devastation. Half of Blackwood's men buried under 6 feet of snow, others thrown clear, broken but alive. James Blackwood, 4. Gone. Completely. The spot where he'd stood was under a mountain of white death. Survivors staggered out, stared at the destruction. One of the gunmen, face bloody, looked at the snow. He's under there. The marshal started forward. We need to dig. Ain't no point. The gunman shook his head. Mountain made its judgment. Ain't our place to argue with that. He looked at me. Long moment. Something like respect in his eyes. Ma'am, I'm sorry, for what it's worth. He limped away. Other survivors followed. Silent agreement. This ends here. Townspeople emerged from the cellar, saw the destruction, saw me standing amid it, untouched in my green silk dress. Providence, the preacher's wife whispered. Mountain protected her, someone said. Maybe she ain't crazy after all. Maybe she's blessed. Dr. Harrison approached, held out his journal. Still want to give this to the authorities? I took it, felt its weight. No, burn it. Man's dead. Girls are gone. Evidence won't bring them back. I handed it to the marshal. But you keep it, locked away, case any other Blackwood shows up claiming rights they don't deserve. Yes, ma'am. The marshal took it. Miss Ashford, or is it Mrs. Price now? I looked at Daniel, question in my eyes. He smiled slightly. Up to her. It's Garner, Sylvie Garner. That's who I've been for 15 years. I took Daniel's hand. But I reckon I could add Price to it, if that suits you. Suits me just fine. Emma, Thomas, Lucy rushed forward. Group hug, Scout barking, joyful, town watching, witnessing. The mountain had spoken, and we had survived. 3 months later, spring thaw had turned the mountain green, new growth everywhere, like the world was being born again. A lawyer rode up on a fine horse, found me and Daniel on the porch, watching the children play with Scout in the meadow. Emma was teaching Thomas to identify wildflowers. Lucy chased butterflies. "Mrs. Price?" the lawyer called. "Mrs. Price Garner," I corrected gently. "Or just Sylvie." He dismounted, pulled documents from his saddlebag, the leather still smelling of town, of offices and ink and official business. "I'm here regarding the Blackwood estate. Final settlement." He handed me a deed. I read it. Looked up, confused. "This is made out to me, for $1. "Yes, ma'am. Mr. Blackwood's will, written 3 years ago, before he ever hired Mr. Price, contained a provision. In the event of his death, the Colorado property would be offered to its current occupant for $1, provided they could demonstrate 15 years of continuous residence and improvements." Daniel leaned forward. "Why would he do that?" There was a note attached. The lawyer pulled another paper. "May I?" I nodded, throat tight. He read, "To Sarah Millicent Ashford. My father died believing he'd failed you. I've spent my life trying to understand why you ran. If you've survived 15 years alone on this mountain, you've earned it more than any Blackwood ever did. This is my apology for his obsession. Signed, James Blackwood IV." Tears filled my eyes. Daniel's arm came around my shoulders. "He let me go," I whispered. "The avalanche was ruled an act of God," the lawyer continued. "No criminal charges. The trafficking evidence has been sealed, and this property is legally yours, free and clear." He offered a pen. I signed with shaking hands, took the deed, held it like something sacred. 15 years. All I'd wanted was to be left alone. And in the end, even the man hunting me had granted me that. "Thank you," I told the lawyer. He tipped his hat, rode away down the mountain trail. Emma ran up from the meadow. "What was that about?" "Land's ours, official." I showed her the deed. "Nobody can take it away." She hugged me. Thomas joined. Lucy climbed on my lap, chattering about butterflies and flowers and the way Scout had chased a rabbit. Daniel wrapped his arms around all of us, just a family, on a porch, in spring sunlight, simple, sacred, free. The cabin addition was complete. Beautiful work, Daniel's best, the cornerstone ready to be placed in its permanent home. "Emma, Tom, Lucy," Daniel called. "Family job." The children gathered. Each placed a hand on the stone carved with our joined names. "This stone holds our name. Price Garner, that's who we are now." Daniel's voice was steady, proud. "Not just related by blood, but by choice, by work, by love. By surviving," Emma added. "Yeah," Daniel smiled. "That too." Together we lifted the stone, positioned it carefully. It settled with a solid thunk. Foundation complete, permanent. I read the inscription aloud. "Price Garner, 1883, built on hard ground." "Figured that was honest," Daniel said. "It is." We stood back, admired the work. Scout lay nearby, graying muzzle on his paws. He'd aged in the months since winter, but his eyes were still sharp, still watching over us. Thomas knelt beside him, petted his scarred ear gently. "Good boy, you saved us." He did. I knelt too. Led me to that cabin, warned us about the avalanche. "That dog's got more sense than most people." "Scout Angel?" Lucy asked, patting his head. "Maybe so, Sweet Pea." I looked at the dog who'd brought us all together. Maybe God sends angels in different shapes. Some got wings, some got fur, and a scarred ear. Scout's tail thumped once. Approval. Emma stood with her medicine bag, the one I'd given her. Inside, willow bark, dried herbs, the knowledge I'd passed down. "Mama Sylvie, can I start the garden today?" The name no longer surprised me. It fit, like everything else that had grown between us. "We'll do it together. Whole family. That's how gardens grow best." We moved to the cleared plot. Rich soil, warm from spring sun. Each of us planted something. Emma, her healing herbs. Thomas, his vegetables. Lucy, her flowers with our help. Daniel and I worked side by side, our hands in the earth, building something that would outlast us. The mountains stood watch. The creek ran high with snowmelt. Smoke rose from our chimney. We were home. Not the home I'd imagined 15 years ago when I fled into these mountains. Better. Spring always comes slower on the mountain. Down in Millerville, lilacs bloom by late April, but up here, the thaw takes its time. Slow drips along the eaves, soft ground giving up its frost inch by inch. The air still bites in the mornings, yet there's warmth behind it, like a promise that the mountain never breaks. It's strange, living without the constant fear of someone coming to take everything away. For 15 years, I'd lived braced. For storms, for loneliness, for the sound of boots outside my door. Now each dawn feels like a quiet, I'm still learning how to live inside. When I wake, I hear laughter before birdsong. Emma's voice, bright and certain, carries across the yard as she calls to her brothers. Thomas's quieter laughter follows, low and content, like the rumble of a creek over stones. And Lucy, sweet little Lucy, her giggles rise above them all, full of the kind of innocence that makes you believe the world might just be worth saving after all. I lie there for a while, some mornings, eyes closed, just listening. I think about how, for years, I mistook silence for peace. Now I know better. Peace isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of voices you love. Daniel says the same thing in his own way. He's building a new porch swing, claims it's for the children, but I've seen the way he looks at it, the way he imagines me there in the evenings, cup of coffee in hand, watching the sun go down. He hums while he works now. A man doesn't hum unless something inside him's been set right. Sometimes, when I'm weeding the small garden or mending clothes by the fire, he'll catch my eye, and there's this look between us, quiet understanding that doesn't need words, the kind of look two people share when they've been through too much to pretend anymore. He's asked again, of course, about marriage, about making the name on that cornerstone official. This time, I didn't tell him to wait. We stood by the creek one morning, the snowmelt rushing wild and clear, and he said, "No preacher, no papers, just the mountain to hear us." I told him that was enough. He took my hand, rough carpenter's skin against the calluses of a woman who's built her own life, and we made our vows there. Not the kind that bind, but the kind that set you free. Promises spoken soft and true, carried off by wind through the pines. So now, I suppose, I am Mrs. Price Garner, in full. The name feels less like ownership and more like a shared strength, the kind of joining that doesn't erase what came before, but honors it. At night, when the stars come out, clear and sharp over the ridge, I sometimes think of Sarah, my sister, my shadow, my reason, though I didn't know it for so long. 15 years, I thought she was a ghost from another life. Turns out, she was the thread that led me home. I see her in Emma's fierce eyes, in Thomas's steady kindness, in Lucy's laughter. They carry her, piece by piece. Maybe that's how the dead live on, not in graves or letters, but in small gestures, in the way a child tilts her head, or how a man says your name with quiet reverence. I read her letter often. It's worn soft at the folds now, the ink fading. I keep it in a wooden box by my bed, next to the deed, next to a dried sprig of wild lavender she once sent me when we were girls. I read it on nights when the wind rises and the mountain feels too big, and I remind myself, she found her way to me, even through death. Sometimes I speak to her, not out loud, not exactly, more like a thought that passes through me as I watch the children sleep or listen to Daniel breathing beside me. You were right, Sarah, I tell her. I wasn't brave for running. I was brave for surviving. But you were brave for believing I was worth finding. The mountain looks different now that it's ours. The same peaks, the same sky, but the light sits softer on the land. Maybe it's me who's changed, not the mountain. Maybe peace changes what you see. The old trapper's cabin we found that winter still stands, empty, half buried under snowmelt. Sometimes I ride out there with Scout. He's slower these days, grayer around the muzzle, but his eyes are the same. Sharp, knowing. He limps a little now, favoring that back leg, but he still insists on leading the way. I always let him. We stop by that cabin, and I place a small bundle of wildflowers at the threshold. For the girls who never got names, for the women no one came looking for. The world won't write their stories, but I'll remember them. That's what survival means, I think. Not just living, but remembering. When I come home from those rides, Daniel never asks where I've been. He just looks up from his work and nods. Some things don't need explaining between people who've already shared the edge of the world. The town's changed too. Blackwood's death ended more than just his line. It broke a spell. The preacher preaches quieter now. The women look one another in the eye more often. Even Marshall Davis, who once rode up here full of judgment, brings supplies from town every few weeks, saying it's repayment for keeping the mountain from taking the rest of us. He never stays long, but he always leaves with a loaf of Emma's bread and a pat from Scout. Dr. Harrison rebuilt his practice in Millerville. He still writes letters now and then, updates about how the town's trying to make things right. More schoolhouses, fairer laws, women speaking at council meetings. Maybe redemption spreads the way spring does, slow but steady. As for me, I find my peace in small things. In Lucy's muddy hands as she plants flowers, In Thomas's careful repairs on old tools, always with that look of concentration his father has. In Emma's voice reading from my old books, words of worlds beyond this mountain, and in Daniel. His laughter when he forgets to guard it, his quiet gratitude when I hand him coffee at sunrise. We don't talk much about that winter anymore. Some things are better left as memories' ghosts, not forgotten, just softened by time. I still walk to the ridge sometimes, the one where the avalanche started. From there, you can see the whole valley spread below, green now, alive. In spring, wildflowers bloom where the snow once buried everything. The land remembers, but it forgives too. Maybe that's what I've learned most. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what was done to you. It's about refusing to let it own the rest of your life. 15 years of running, one winter of reckoning, and now this, a life I never planned but somehow built with my own two hands. The mountain doesn't belong to me. Not really. I belong to it. To its rhythm, its silence, its storms. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the window, hair silvering at the temples, eyes softer but still sharp. I see the woman I've become and wonder what the girl I once was would think. Maybe she'd be proud. Maybe she'd just be relieved. Tonight, the air smells of rain. The children are asleep, Scout at their feet. Daniel's carving by the fire, shaping wood into something that will outlast both of us. I sit by the window, journal open, ink drying slow, writing down what I can't say out loud. Because words matter, they hold the truth steady when memory wavers. Outside, the wind shifts. I hear the low hum of the creek, the whisper of pine. The same sounds that kept me company in solitude now carry the laughter of a family. I close the journal, set it beside me, and lean back in the chair Daniel made. Solid, simple, honest. Like him, like this life. There's a phrase my mother used to say when we were little. All things that survive the winter bloom, sweeter come spring. I never understood it until now. The world is wide and cruel and beautiful, but sometimes if you stay long enough, if you hold on through the storm, through betrayal, through the long cold of being alone, spring finds you again. It found me, on this mountain, among these people, under this endless sky, and for the first time in my life, I don't want to be anywhere else.